Most people never realize this until it's too late, and by the time awareness arrives, years, sometimes entire lives, have already slipped through their hands. They reach a certain age, pause for a moment, and quietly ask themselves a question they can no longer avoid. How did I end up here? The answer is rarely dramatic. It is almost always simple, subtle, and uncomfortable. They lived without direction. From the day we are born, we are placed on a moving current: school, routine, expectations, opinions, noise. Very few people ever step back to ask where this current is taking them. They assume that movement equals progress. It does not. Motion without direction is called drifting, and drifting is the silent habit of the majority. Drifting feels safe. It requires no decisions, no responsibility, no risk. You wake up, do what is expected, react to circumstances, and repeat the cycle. Days turn into months, months into years. Life keeps moving forward, but you are not intentionally moving with it. You are being carried. Here is the truth most people never realize until it's too late. Life does not reward intention, hope, or effort alone. Life rewards direction. Without a clearly defined purpose, even the hardest work produces average results. You can be busy every day of your life and still go nowhere. The world is divided into two groups. A small percentage lives by design. The majority lives by default. Those who live by default allow their environment to shape their thinking. They accept beliefs without questioning them. They absorb limits without examining their origin. Over time, these borrowed limits become personal prisons. The few who live by design do something radically different. At some point, they stop reacting and start choosing. They decide what kind of person they will become. They define what success means to them. They select their direction consciously, and then they align their thoughts and actions with that decision. This difference alone creates a massive gap in outcomes. Understand this clearly. You do not become successful by accident, and you do not fail by accident either. Both are processes. Both are the result of daily patterns repeated long enough to harden into destiny. Most people believe that circumstances control their lives. They point to the economy, their background, their education, or other people. This belief is comforting because it removes responsibility, but it is also destructive because it removes power. The moment you believe forces outside of you control your future, you stop exercising the only control that actually matters: your thinking. Your mind is not just a passive observer of life. It is an active filter. It determines what you notice, how you interpret events, and what actions you take as a result. Over time, your dominant thoughts become your dominant reality. This is not philosophy. It is function. Think about it carefully. Every achievement, every invention, every transformation in human history began as a thought held long enough to be acted upon. In the same way, every limitation you accept silently shapes your behavior and narrows your choices. Most people never realize that they are not reacting to reality itself, but to their perception of it. Change the perception, and behavior changes. Change behavior consistently, and results must change. But here is where most fail. Awareness alone is not enough. Knowing this principle without applying it produces no results. The difference between those who break free and those who remain stuck is not intelligence, luck, or talent. It is disciplined application. The mind must be directed deliberately. If you do not feed it with purpose, it will feed on fear. If you do not give it a goal, it will attach itself to distractions. Left unmanaged, the mind becomes a storage place for doubt, comparison, and regret. Those who succeed understand this early, or they learn it painfully. They choose a definite aim, not a vague wish, not a hopeful desire, but a clear decision. They decide what they want, why they want it, and what they are willing to give in return. This decision becomes a reference point. It filters opportunities. It simplifies choices. It creates focus. And focus, applied consistently, is unstoppable. Most people never make this decision. They wait. They wait for clarity, confidence, motivation, or permission. None of these arrive on their own. Clarity follows action. Confidence is built through effort. Motivation is a result, not a prerequisite. Time does not wait for understanding. It moves forward regardless of awareness. And this is why realization often comes too late. People wake up not because the truth was unavailable, but because the cost of ignoring it finally became unbearable. The purpose of this message is not to inspire temporary emotion. It is to awaken permanent understanding. You are not here to drift. You are here to choose, to build, and to become. In the next part, we will explore how a single decision, properly applied, can redirect the course of an entire life, and why most people resist making it, even when they know the truth. The decision to choose a definite direction sounds simple, yet it is one of the rarest actions a human being ever takes. Most people live their entire lives avoiding it, not because they are incapable, but because the decision itself carries responsibility. Once you choose, excuses lose their power. Once you define a direction, distraction. Every distraction exposes itself. This is why the majority hesitate. They confuse decision with commitment. A wish can be abandoned without consequence. A decision demands follow-through, and follow-through requires discipline. Understand this. Discipline is not restriction. Discipline is freedom. It frees you from emotional inconsistency. It removes dependence on mood and motivation. It allows progress even on days when inspiration is absent. Those who wait to feel ready never begin. Those who begin create readiness. Most people believe that successful individuals are driven by constant motivation. This is false. They are driven by structure. They build systems that carry them forward when emotions fluctuate. They rely on routine, not excitement. Consistency, not intensity, creates lasting results. This is another realization that comes too late for many. Extraordinary lives are built through ordinary actions performed consistently over time. There is no dramatic leap. There is only steady alignment. The moment you choose a direction, life responds differently. Opportunities that once went unnoticed become visible. Information that once seemed irrelevant suddenly matters. Your awareness sharpens because your mind now has a target. Without a target, the mind wanders. With a target, it organizes. This is why goal clarity is not optional. It is foundational. Yet even with a clear goal, most people sabotage themselves in subtle ways. They underestimate the power of environment. Your environment is not just physical, it is mental and social. The conversations you engage in, the content you consume, the people you spend time with, all of these quietly shape your thinking. If you surround yourself with doubt, complaint, and limitation, your mind adopts these patterns without resistance. If you surround yourself with growth-oriented thinking, your standards rise naturally. This is not imitation, it is conditioning. Successful individuals are extremely selective about their inputs. They guard their attention as if it were currency, because it is. What you consistently give your attention to determines what grows in your life. Another truth most people realize too late is this: you cannot build a new future while feeding the habits of your past. Change requires replacement. Old patterns must be exchanged for new ones deliberately. Awareness without replacement leads to frustration. Progress demands sacrifice, but not in the way most imagine. You are not sacrificing happiness. You are sacrificing comfort. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It keeps you where you are. Growth requires discomfort, uncertainty, and temporary instability. These are not signs of failure. They are signs of expansion. Most people interpret discomfort as danger. Successful individuals interpret it as data. They ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of, how do I escape this? This shift in interpretation changes everything. Failure, in this context, is not an event. It is feedback. Every setback contains information. Those who progress extract the lesson and adjust. Those who stagnate personalize the setback and retreat. The difference is not what happens. It is how it is processed. One of the most damaging beliefs people carry is the idea that time is on their side. It is not. Time is neutral. It magnifies whatever you do consistently. If you drift, time multiplies regret. If you apply direction, time multiplies results. This is why urgency matters. Not panic, but urgency. The awareness that today is not a rehearsal. Every day either strengthens a pattern or weakens it. There is no pause button. Most people plan their weekends better than their lives. They invest more thought into short-term comfort than long-term fulfillment. And years later, they wonder why life feels empty despite being busy. Fulfillment does not come from accumulation. It comes from progress towards something meaningful. The human mind requires forward movement. Without it, even success feels hollow. The tragedy is not failure. The tragedy is unexpressed potential. It is reaching the end of life knowing you could have become more, contributed more, lived more deliberately, but didn't. This realization often arrives quietly, in moments of reflection, when distractions fade and truth remains. By then, the cost of inaction is painfully clear. But here is the important truth. Realization does not have to come late. Awareness can arrive now. Direction can begin now. The future is not decided by the past. It is decided by what you do consistently from this moment forward. In the next part, we will examine the role of self-image, how the way you see yourself silently determines what you believe is possible, and why changing your identity is the fastest way to change your results. Your self-image is the silent blueprint guiding every decision you make. It operates beneath awareness, shaping what you attempt, what you avoid, and what you believe you deserve. Most people never question it, and that is why it controls them. You do not act based on your potential. You act based on your identity. If your identity says, this is not for people like me, your behavior will always find a way to confirm that belief. If your identity says, I am capable of growth, your actions align accordingly. This is why positive thinking alone fails. Thought without identity change produces temporary enthusiasm, not transformation, the mind will always return to what feels familiar. To change results, you must upgrade the internal image you hold of yourself. Most people wait for evidence before changing their self-image. This is backward. Evidence follows belief, not the other way around. Successful individuals decide who they are becoming before the results appear. They act into a new identity. This is uncomfortable because it requires behaving in alignment with a future version of yourself while your environment still reflects the past. This tension is where growth happens. Those who endure it evolve. Those who escape it remain the same. Another realization that comes too late for many is that confidence is not something you wait for. Confidence is built through keeping promises to yourself. Each small commitment honored strengthens self-trust. Each broken promise weakens it. Self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Without it, external validation becomes addictive. People begin to seek approval because they do not believe their own word matters. This creates dependency and hesitation. The moment you begin honoring your commitments, especially the ones no one else sees, your posture changes, your voice changes, your presence changes. Others sense it before you do. This leads to another critical truth. How you do small things determines how you do everything. Excellence is not an act, it is a standard. The standard you tolerate privately becomes the standard you express publicly. Most people underestimate the compound effect of standards. Lower standards feel easier today, but cost you later. Higher standards feel uncomfortable now, but pay dividends over time. There is no neutral behavior. Every action either reinforces the person you want to become or strengthens the habits of the person you are trying to outgrow. This is why awareness without action creates anxiety. Once you see the gap between who you are and who you could be, you must move, or the discomfort will consume you. Another painful realization many face too late is this: no one is coming to save you. Not a mentor, not a system, not a perfect opportunity. Support can help, but responsibility cannot be outsourced. This realization is not depressing, it is liberating. When you accept full responsibility, you reclaim full power. You are no longer waiting, you are choosing. The moment you stop blaming circumstances, you begin building solutions. Blame keeps you stuck. Ownership moves you forward. People often ask, what if I fail? The better question is, what if you succeed at the wrong things? Busyness without direction is one of the most dangerous traps. It creates the illusion of progress while preserving stagnation. Direction filters effort. It ensures energy is invested, not wasted. Without direction, even talent decays. Another truth rarely spoken: comfort zones shrink over time. If you do not challenge yourself, your world becomes smaller. Fear expands where courage is not practiced. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite it. Fear never disappears. It loses authority when action is taken. Every meaningful life requires deliberate discomfort. Growth demands friction. Ease produces erosion. Those who achieve fulfillment do not avoid difficulty. They select it. They choose challenges aligned with purpose instead of random struggles imposed by circumstance. At some point, everyone faces a crossroads. Continue drifting or choose deliberately. The difference between the two paths is not talent or intelligence. It is courage. And courage, like any skill, strengthens with use. In the next part, we will explore how time, habits, and daily rituals quietly determine destiny, and why what you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. Time is the most misunderstood resource in human life. People treat it as if it were abundant, when in truth, it is the one thing that cannot be stored, borrowed, or replaced. Money can be lost and regained. Opportunities can return in new forms. Time moves in one direction only. Most people measure their days by urgency rather than importance. They react instead of design. This is why weeks feel busy, but years feel empty. Activity is not progress. Motion without direction produces exhaustion, not achievement. Your life in its entirety is the result of what you do repeatedly. Single decisions matter far less than daily habits. Habits are invisible architects, quietly constructing your future while you are distracted by the present. This is why discipline must be automatic. Willpower is unreliable. It fades under stress, fatigue, and emotion. Systems outlast motivation. Rituals remove decision fatigue. When behavior becomes habitual, progress becomes inevitable. Most people attempt to change their lives by making dramatic resolutions. They aim for transformation without structure. This leads to burnout and disappointment. Real change happens through small, repeatable actions performed consistently. A daily ritual does not need to be impressive. It needs to be non-negotiable. Even 10 focused minutes invested daily will outperform hours of scattered effort. Consistency compounds. Another realization that often comes too late is this: what you practice, you strengthen. Whether intentional or not, you are always practicing something. If you practice distraction, you become distracted. If you practice discipline, you become disciplined. Your Your environment either supports or sabotages your habits. This is why successful individuals design their surroundings deliberately. They remove friction from desired behaviors and increase friction for unwanted ones. If you rely on self-control alone, you will eventually fail. If you rely on design, success becomes easier. Make the right action the easiest action. Most people underestimate how quickly identity shifts when habits change. Behavior informs belief. When you act consistently in alignment with a higher standard, your self-image adjusts naturally. Time rewards alignment. When thoughts, actions, and goals point in the same direction, progress accelerates. When they conflict, energy leaks. This is why clarity simplifies life. Decision-making becomes faster. Priorities become obvious. Distractions lose their appeal because they do not serve the direction you have chosen. Another truth few people recognize early enough is this: rest is not laziness. Recovery is part of progress. Burnout is not a badge of honor. It is a signal of imbalance. Sustainable success requires rhythm, work and rest, effort and reflection, challenge and recovery. Those who ignore this eventually collapse or quit. Life is not a sprint. It is not even a marathon. It is a series of seasons. Each season requires a different pace and focus. Wisdom is knowing which season you are in and acting accordingly. The most fulfilled individuals review their lives regularly. They reflect, adjust, and realign. They do not drift for years before questioning direction. Reflection prevents regret. This leads to another late realization. Thinking time is not wasted time. Stillness creates clarity. Silence reveals truth. Without space to think, life becomes reactive. Most people avoid stillness because it confronts them with themselves. But avoidance only delays growth. What you resist persists. The future belongs to those who slow down enough to think and fast enough to act. Reflection without action is indulgence. Action without reflection is chaos. Balance creates momentum. In the next part, we will examine the role of purpose, why meaning is the fuel that sustains effort, and why success without purpose ultimately feels empty. Purpose is the invisible force that determines how long you can endure difficulty without quitting. When effort is disconnected from meaning, even small obstacles feel heavy. When effort is aligned with purpose, even hardship becomes tolerable. Most people search for purpose as if it were hidden somewhere outside themselves. They wait for clarity before acting. But purpose is not discovered in thought alone. It is revealed through engagement. You move and meaning follows. Purpose does not require certainty. It requires sincerity. You do not need to know the full path. You need to know the next honest step. Commitment creates clarity, not the other way around. Another realization many reach too late is this: pleasure motivates briefly. Purpose sustains indefinitely. Pleasure fades. Purpose endures. This is why a life built solely on comfort eventually feels empty. Human beings are designed to contribute. When contribution is absent, dissatisfaction grows regardless of success. Wealth without usefulness produces restlessness. Achievement without service creates boredom. Purpose connects personal growth with service to others. It answers the question, who benefits if I become better? When the answer extends beyond yourself, motivation multiplies. This is why meaningful goals are always larger than ego. They demand growth. They require sacrifice. They stretch identity. Most people set goals that are too small, not because they lack ambition, but because they fear responsibility. Bigger goals demand higher standards. Higher standards demand discipline. Discipline exposes weaknesses. Avoiding this discomfort feels safe, but it carries a hidden cost: stagnation. Comfort is a slow erosion of potential. Another late realization is that passion is not something you wait to feel. Passion is built through progress. As competence increases, interest deepens. Mastery creates enthusiasm. Those who pursue mastery rarely lack motivation. Their work becomes intrinsically rewarding. They are fueled by improvement, not applause. This is why comparison is dangerous. When you measure yourself against others, you distort your purpose. Your path is unique. Your contribution cannot be replicated, but it must be developed. Comparison steals focus. Focus fuels excellence. Excellence creates value. Value attracts reward. Purpose also simplifies decision-making. When faced with choices, you ask, does this move me closer to what matters? If the answer is no, the decision is made. Without purpose, decisions become emotional. With purpose, they become strategic. Another difficult truth: clarity often requires letting go. Some relationships, habits, and ambitions no longer fit the person you are becoming. Holding on to them slows progress. This does not mean rejection. It means realignment. Growth demands pruning. Most people resist letting go because they confuse familiarity with safety. safety. But what is familiar may no longer be functional. Security built on stagnation eventually collapses. Those who evolve accept temporary loneliness in exchange for long-term fulfillment. They understand that alignment matters more than approval. At some point, everyone must choose between fitting in and becoming more. The two rarely coexist. Purpose-driven individuals choose depth over breadth. They invest energy where it matters most. They say no more often, so their yes carries power. This is another reason most people realize the truth too late. They spend years pleasing others and neglecting themselves. Resentment grows quietly. Fulfillment fades. Purpose restores balance. It aligns effort with values. It transforms work into contribution. In the next part, we will explore resistance, why the moment you commit to growth, internal and external resistance appears, and how to use it as confirmation rather than a warning dot. The moment you commit to change, resistance appears. This is not coincidence. It is confirmation. Resistance is the signal that you have stepped outside your previous identity. Growth triggers friction because the mind prefers familiarity over improvement. Most people misinterpret resistance as a warning sign. They assume difficulty means they are on the wrong path. In reality, difficulty often means the opposite. Ease is common. Resistance is selective. Internal resistance appears as doubt, procrastination, and rationalization. External resistance appears as criticism, misunderstanding, and lack of support. Both are predictable. Both are necessary. If growth were comfortable, everyone would pursue it. The fact that most do not is precisely why it works. Another realization that arrives too late for many is this: the mind will invent logical reasons to avoid discomfort. These reasons feel intelligent, but they are protective, not progressive. They exist to preserve the current identity. The question is not whether resistance will appear. The question is how you respond to it. Those who progress learn to expect resistance. They plan for it. They do not debate with it. They move anyway. Action dissolves doubt faster than thinking ever could. Most people attempt to eliminate fear before acting. This is impossible. Fear is a biological response, not a moral flaw. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement in its presence. Fear shrinks when faced directly. Avoidance feeds it. Each avoided action strengthens fear's authority. Each completed action weakens it. This is why small acts of courage matter. They compound. They rewire the nervous system. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes routine. Another truth rarely taught early is that criticism is not a verdict. It is feedback filtered through someone else's limitations. When you outgrow your environment, misunderstanding is inevitable. Most people take criticism personally because they are unclear about their purpose. When purpose is clear, criticism becomes background noise. Not all resistance is external. Often, the strongest resistance comes from within. Old habits, outdated beliefs, and internal narratives formed years ago. These must be challenged deliberately. You cannot negotiate with a habit. You replace it. You cannot argue with fear. You act despite it. This is why clarity plus action is unstoppable. When you know why you are moving and you move daily, resistance loses leverage. Another painful realization many reach too late is that talent unused becomes regret. Potential not applied turns into frustration. The longer it remains dormant, the heavier it feels. Regret is rarely about what you did. It is about what you did not do. The conversations you avoided, the chances you declined, the growth you postponed. Time does not forgive hesitation. It simply records it. Those who live fulfilled lives act when fear is present, not absent. They understand that fear is part of the admission price for a meaningful life. Resistance is not the enemy. It is the gatekeeper. On the other side of resistance is expansion. In the next part, we will bring everything together. How thinking, identity, habits, purpose, and resistance integrate into a single operating system for life, and how to apply it starting now. Everything you have heard so far is not a collection of ideas. It is a system. Thinking, identity, habits, purpose, and resistance are not separate forces. They are interconnected parts of a single operating system that governs your life. Your thoughts shape your identity. Your identity drives your behavior. Your behavior forms your habits. Your habits determine your results. Your results either reinforce purpose or create frustration. Change one element deliberately, and the entire system begins to shift. Most people try to change outcomes without changing the system. They chase results while ignoring causes. This is why motivation fades and progress stalls. Sustainable transformation requires alignment. The first step is awareness. You must observe your thinking without defending it. Most limitations are not facts. They are conclusions formed long ago under different circumstances. What protected you once may now be restraining you. The second step is decision. Not preference, not hope. Decision. Decide who you are becoming. Decide what standard you will no longer negotiate with. Decision collapses alternatives. It simplifies life. The third step is structure. Design your days to support the identity you are building. Do not rely on emotion. Rely on design. Make progress inevitable by making it routine. The fourth step is patience. Growth is not linear. There will be days of clarity and days of doubt. This does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. Stay consistent anyway. Most people quit during the gap between effort and visible reward. This is where the system is working, even though results are not yet visible. Trust the process you have committed to. Another truth most people realize too late is this: you do not need permission to change your life. You do not need validation to grow. You do not need consensus to choose a different path. Waiting for approval delays progress. Progress creates approval later, if it is needed at all. You are not here to live a life designed by default. You are here to live deliberately. Drift is easy. Design requires courage. The world rewards clarity. When you know where you are going, help appears. Resources align. Opportunities emerge, not by magic, but by awareness. When your mind has a target, it filters reality differently. You begin to see what was always there, but previously invisible. This is why people say, "I was lucky." Luck is often preparation meeting awareness. Another late realization: success is not owned. It is rented, and rent is due every day. What worked yesterday must be maintained today. Growth is a practice, not a destination. There is no final arrival point where effort ends, but effort aligned with purpose does not feel like struggle. It feels like engagement. A meaningful life is not free of problems. It is full of meaningful ones. You choose the challenges you are willing to face. That choice determines the quality of your life. Most people avoid challenge and end up with problems they did not choose: stress, regret, dissatisfaction. Those who choose challenge gain problems with purpose, growth, responsibility, contribution. At the end of life, the question will not be, did you avoid failure? It will be, did you become who you were capable of becoming? This is the realization that arrives too late for many, but it does not have to arrive late for you. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not stuck. You are simply at a point of awareness. What you do next determines everything.